Coming up, it is one of the biggest economic development deals in memory. And this week, we go inside the $300 million plan by Elanco Animal Health to create a global headquarters at the former GM stamping plant site in downtown Indianapolis and a global hub of operations in Indiana. In our top story this week, one-on-one with Elanco's CEO, Jeff Simmons. And Anderson-based Scout and ZOE'S has found an unusual ingredient for a new line of pet treats. It says it just might help the environment as well. CEO Cindy Dunstan-Quirk joins us to tell us about Superfly, a product made with black soldier fly larvae. Plus,
Mary Rachel Redmond in RENSSELAER, Indiana, where one family-owned business has transformed a vacant building into a federally approved PPE production facility that will help save lives here in Indiana. More on that story coming up.
Details on that story and much more on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to this edition of Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick, coming to you this week from my home here in Indianapolis. This week, my wife tested positive for the coronavirus. She is fine, showing no symptoms, doing very well. I'm showing no symptoms as well. But out of an abundance of caution for our studio crew and others, we've decided to tape this week's show from my home. And we have another great show for you, and that includes our top story. A $300 million investment by Elanco Animal Health, really one of the biggest economic development deals in memory, will transform the former General Motors stamping plant site in downtown Indianapolis along the White River into a 45-acre global headquarters campus. Now, the deal was more than a year in the making and has significant implications for Indianapolis and multiple locations around the state. For some perspective on how and why it happened and what's next, I'm pleased, as always, to be joined by Elanco President and CEO Jeff Simmons. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Gary.
This, again, a highly anticipated deal, a big deal for Indiana. All indications that we're receiving, it got down to Indianapolis and Kansas City for that final decision. Jeff, as you look at it, when everything, you blow all the smoke away, what were really the deciding factors in choosing Indianapolis and Indiana for this big investment?
Yeah, well, without question, we're coming up on 7 full decades of history here as mostly a division of Eli Lilly and Company. And so Indiana has been our home, and that's a big part of this. But I think as we really a credit to Governor Holcomb and Secretary Schillinger, as well as Mayor Hogsett, their offices, their teams, Indiana truly made all efforts to make this very, very easy for us in terms of this being the ideal place. And then, yes, the location, moving into Indianapolis, when we think about talent, capabilities, we can talk about what we want from this campus. It excites us to move to the west side of the river in the city as well and be part of that community. So a lot of things coming together and bigger partners like Purdue and Agrinovus as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that the city and state heavy involvement, of course. How about that involvement by Purdue? How important to have that world-class ag institution and tech institution on board in this project?
Yeah, I mean, what Mitch Daniels and Purdue University are doing we look globally at academics, research, the talent. We hire a lot of Purdue talent. They're out on the forefront in all regards. And so a tremendous collaboration effort. We've had a long history with Purdue, and we'll continue that, and a lot of alumni, even in our leadership. I think, Gary, the other big driver here is we look at this campus and we think about what we want to do. A lot of this was driven by a significant transformation in Elanco. We're 67 years old as a company. We've spun out of Eli Lilly the last couple of years, become a New York Stock Exchange independent company, quickly then acquired Bayer. And so really since 2007, we're 4 times bigger. We're in 19 species of animals, where back when I started, it was, cattle and pigs and poultry. We're very big in pets. We're big in retail and through the vet clinics. So the complexity of this really made us have to look at a campus of the future. And Purdue will play a role in that. But that campus of the future has to be one that ideates, that collaborates, that creates innovation. And we did a post-COVID work study as well to look at what our needs are, and then to be able to bring partners in. It has to become a destination. Ultimately, our bigger vision is that on the west side of that river in Indianapolis, on this campus, we want to create a epicenter that actually, for the 19 species of animals and the health and the well-being of those animals, we create the innovation and the history we've had, manufacturing, as well as new capabilities, artificial intelligence, the microbiome, some of the research, as well as even the digital, the ability to reach and be the bridge to over 100 countries and the multitude of animals that we serve.
Very ambitious plan, certainly, and it extends beyond Indianapolis. I know your major manufacturing operations in Clinton are part of the investment announcement, and you're also looking at research and development operations going forward as well, focused, centered here in Indiana.
Yeah, that's correct. A long history. We've got facilities in Clinton and Terre Haute, and in downtown Indianapolis some. So the goal now is to actually create, and as we look at the post-COVID work environment, just completed a future of work study. And I think this is important, Gary, as we want something that is smaller, that is smarter, but has a campus feel. It's a destination. A study of our global employees say that 70% of our employees don't expect to be in the office every day. We need an open, collaborative environment that creates, the ability to be a destination for our global employees. The other thing we've noticed is with COVID, the floodgates are open on talent. With a more virtual world, but a great destination like Indianapolis, you can attract talent now, we believe, at another level. And so our ability now to be one of the top attractors of talent, animal health is a very hot space right now. And we believe life sciences and the history of the ag bioscience that Indiana brings, this brings a big opportunity to bring another level of talent into Elanco as well as into Indiana.
A major deal for Elanco and for Indiana, of course. Elanco CEO Jeff Simmons, great to see you as always. I know we'll be talking a lot more with you about this going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. Be safe.
All right, you too. Also making headlines this week, Evansville-based White Stallion Energy says ongoing COVID-19 pandemic issues and the inability to raise additional capital have led the company to file for bankruptcy and immediately lay off some 340 workers in Southwest Indiana. In a notice to the state, the coal company says it has shut down 6 mines, 3 offices in Southern Indiana and Southern Illinois. The entire workforce laid off last week. White Stallion says falling demand for U.S. coal also contributed to the bankruptcy decision. Well, coming up next, Anderson-based entrepreneur who is making a big bang in the booming business of pet treats by using larvae from flies. Yeah, flies as one of the main ingredients. Scout and ZOE'S CEO Cindy Dunston-Quirk explains her company's newest product line, Superfly, how it's driving the bottom line for her Madison County business, and why it's important for animal health and the environment. Stay with us. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, Scout and ZOE'S has created a new line of pet treats that really doesn't sound very appetizing to us humans, but is perfect for our 4-legged friends by using black soldier larvae. That's right, black soldier larvae. This Anderson company says they're also helping the environment as well. Pleased to be joined now and welcome back to the show, Scout and ZOE'S founder and chief executive officer, Cindy Dunston-Quirk. And Cindy, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's been a while since we've talked, but your company is an amazing story. Launched 10 years ago, 2010, really out of a passion by you, and you've created quite an operation there. Go back 10 years, how you started the company.
Started the company in 2010 as a way to solve a chew issue for my dog Zoe, and we only had black soldier flies. We had elk antlers at the time. We had 5 sizes of elk antlers, and we did very, very well with that. And then in about 2012, I diverted into treats along with the elk antlers because Chinese chicken jerky was killing a lot of animals, a lot of pets. And boy, it's taken off since then. And now treats are about 85–90% of our revenue. And we specialize in very, very unique treats for not only dogs, but cats, horses, and reptiles and amphibians and small animals.
Yeah, very interesting. And you mentioned a niche products that you have, wholesaling all over the country, actually exporting outside of the United States as well. Nearly 10,000 customers. You've grown exponentially over the years. And again, these are products that you say are good for animals, but you also want to make sure they're good for the environment. That's this new product, Superfly Black Soldier Larva. What is that, and why does it make sense for this new product line?
It's a great product. It's made out of black soldier fly larvae, and they look like mealworms. If you've ever fed bluebirds, then you know what a mealworm is, but they grow very quickly. These are all domestic. They're grown in the United States. They feed on waste from restaurants, so they're actually cleaning up the earth while feeding our gaseous emissions. They use less water. They have a very, very small carbon footprint, and it takes a fraction of the land to produce millions of black soldier fly larvae than it would, say, cattle or pigs or chickens or turkeys. So, I mean, it's hugely great for the earth, but especially nutritious for dogs and cats and birds and chickens and reptiles and amphibians. Yeah. So, I mean, all the gamut of all these animals. It's a great product set.
Very quickly, Cindy, we're out of time, but you're using Asian carp. I mean, it gives you an idea. I know we have some video of that. Some of the products you're making and making it out of unique materials, if you will.
Yeah, the Asian carp is wonderful because we're trying to save the Great Lakes one treat at a time so that they don't take over the waterways. And it's an invasive, non-native species, and we're turning them into tasty treats.
All right. Cindy Dunston-Quirk, amazing story. Scout and ZOE'S, Anderson-based company doing great things in the pet treat business. Cindy, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Also this week, an automated cyber risk management company has launched out of Indianapolis-based venture studio High Alpha. Trava Security says its platform is designed to bridge the gap between cyber risk management and cyber insurance for small and mid-sized companies. Trava cites the U.S. Small Business Administration, which says 88% small business owners are afraid their businesses are vulnerable to a cyber attack. High Alpha, the venture studio, this company is the 20th to launch. Soon 21 and 22 companies will be coming out of High Alpha. Well, how do you go from manufacturing filtration products to receiving a key federal designation to make millions of N95 masks for healthcare workers? It is a story of innovation and entrepreneurship in Northwest Indiana, and we will have details on the evolution of Indiana face mask next. Here's what's making news now around Indiana, brought to you by Chapman Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing. The man for all seasons, Chapman, chapmanheating.com. Well, as COVID-19 case numbers and positivity rates, unfortunately, reach an all-time high in Indiana, one Jasper County startup has become a major player in supplying PPE. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has the story.
There continues to be a major shortage of N95 masks and PPE materials in countries across the globe. But one family-owned manufacturer in RENSSELAER is hoping to change that. Indiana Face Mask is the brainchild of 25-year-old Clayton Geyer, who realized at the beginning of the pandemic that his dad's company, American Meltblown Infiltration, was perfectly positioned to produce these in-demand products.
There's only about 5 companies in the United States that actually have the capabilities to make that material, us being one of them. So when the pandemic started, we were phoning anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls a day from people trying to get the material.
A material his dad Fred has been manufacturing for over a decade at American Meltblown Infiltration. And since the onset of the pandemic, an extremely scarce commodity.
Just spurred into, well, why don't we get the machines ourselves, since we already have the hardest part taken care of. So it wasn't a big leap for us. The biggest thing was actually getting the building ready.
And getting it ready in just a month's time. After significant investment, Geyer was able to convert this abandoned Jasper County warehouse into a federally approved PPE production facility.
There you go.
After getting all scrubbed up, Geyer gave me an exclusive look inside the operation.
And it's been a slow but steady process, getting more machines, getting more people, getting our certifications.
Just last week, Indiana Face Mask received federal approval to manufacture and distribute medical-grade N95 masks.
There's, I believe, now 28 to 30 companies worldwide who are actually certified to make an N95 mask. And again, yeah, we're one of them.
This looks like just a normal mask. I didn't realize it was extra special and that much more protective. So this is what?
So this melt blown is charged. All of your bugs, all your particulate would get caught to it. When you can actually just take a magnet to it, it'll actually get pulled towards the magnet.
In this diagram, the subject counts from 1 to 10. You can see how easily droplets are able to penetrate someone wearing no mask, a 1 or 2 layer cloth mask versus a surgical mask. The second diagram shows droplets expelled while the subject is sneezing. Now for our own experiment, their surgical face mask versus my 2-layer cloth mask.
All right, let's test this baby.
So it's 25% efficient, so 75% of everything you're breathing, you put right into there.
And the results for Geyer's surgical face mask?
We got 1.77% penetration.
The state of Indiana is on fire.
So it's no surprise Governor Holcomb and the state have contracted Indiana face masks indefinitely.
The state of Indiana has agreed, hey, we'll pretty much buy anything that you guys can produce for the next 10 years. Even if we put in another 5, 10 machines, we would just be able to do what Indiana has asked of us, to be able to actually save lives. It's kind of a good feeling. I'm going to make all those really long work hours worth it.
Rachel Redmond from Rensselaer. We'll be right back. Well, it's called the Race for Equality and Change, an initiative of INDYCAR and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to bring more minorities into all levels of open wheel racing. And none other than INDYCAR and IMS owner Roger Penske has waved the green flag for the start of this race. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill, over to you.
Gary, thanks. A new race team called Force Indy was unveiled last week, and with support and mentorship from Team Penske, the goal is to bring African Americans and women's mechanics, engineers, and staff, and perhaps most importantly, drivers to the INDYCAR series. And heading up that initiative will be the team principal, REID, who has led the NXG Youth Motorsports Initiative and has more than 4 decades of experience in racing. Rod joins us on the program today. And sir, welcome. Thanks for making time.
Thanks, Bill. I love to be here.
Well, this is, again, Roger Penske hitting the ground running in every conceivable way, and the Race for Equality and Change announced in July, and now really putting some action into that initiative with this launch of the new team. Talk about how this all came about.
Well, you know, we were very fortunate to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the NXG Youth Motorsports for the last almost 15 years. And when Roger Penske took over the track, took over the series, we had a chance to meet and to sit down and talk about what that meant for us and for the Speedway. And he thought, hey, we've got a sponsorship here and we've got a support with your organization. Why did this come about? And so I shared with him that our desire and my desire to do a race team like I did back in the 80s was something I would like to revisit. And he thought that that would be good to help be a pipeline for those coming into the sport.
And again, we've seen other examples, Bubba Wallace, NASCAR, Lewis Hamilton, Formula One. But for IndyCar, you go back to Willie T. Ribbs. I mean, women have made inroads, obviously, in the IndyCar series, but you got to go all the way back to Willie T. Ribbs. So this is really, again, putting some definitive action and a plan that will eventually, hopefully, bring minorities to the cockpit.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges has been in the past, the initiatives that have focused so much on, as you just mentioned, the cockpit, didn't really look at getting African Americans involved in all aspects of racing. My background, I'm not a race car driver, but I've always been behind the scenes and doing management, sponsor development, and so forth. And so I think that's why this seems to be very sustainable, because we're looking at it as a whole, more horizontally than just getting a driver to be in the 500.
And Rod, I mean, with the NXG initiative, you have developed engineers, mechanics. I mean, you put it into practice, and you've made it happen.
Yeah, we have. We've had over 2,000 kids in the NXG Youth Motorsports program, and two of the people that I brought up through that program, started when they were 12 years old, are going to be a mechanic, an engineer, and others on the team, and we start Force Indy.
As we wrap up, let's look ahead. You're currently in North Carolina near Team Penske. You're getting support and all kinds of assistance from Team Penske. But we look ahead, and the hope is that the number 99, that beautiful car, will be part of the series, the step ladder series, when they hit the track for INDYCAR in St. Pete in March. Yes, the USF 2000 is the series, and we're going to be ready to go. We've got all the equipment that we need, and we're getting the mentorship from Roger Penske, and all we need to do now is to perform well. Well, Rod Reed, again, the principal for Team Force Indy. This is, again, a very exciting initiative, long overdue, and we wish you the best, and we can't wait to see your team in action in St. Petersburg in March. Thanks for being on the program. Thank you. Appreciate it. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Oh, there was another big story from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week with the announcement that noted IMS historian Donald Davidson will be retiring at the end of the year after holding that position, at least officially, for more than 2 decades. But Davidson's connection to and affection for IMS really date back more than 50 years. He was born in England, first visited the Speedway in May of 1964, is perhaps best known for his encyclopedic knowledge of IMS and motorsports. Donald Davidson has been inducted into the IMS Hall of Fame, the Indiana Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame, and the United States Auto Club Hall of Fame. Donald Davidson retiring, a great guy and a great asset for motorsports. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this with some big news for the International School of Indiana with a real connection to the business community. Two of the gifted artists from the Indianapolis Opera sharing their musical talents from the stage of the Basile Opera Center, a Central Indiana landmark looking to enhance its vitality in the arts community. You know, for the past decade, the Indianapolis Opera has called the historic Basile Opera Center in the Meridian Kessler neighborhood home. The 46-year-old organization has grown in many ways during that time, thanks to the generosity of community and business leaders who have donated more than $1 million for renovations to that building. Now there is a push for more to raise additional improvements. And we get details on the campaign for the Basile Opera Center from Indianapolis Opera General Director David Starkey. And David, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you this afternoon.
Yeah, we want to talk about the campaign, but first, the history, the heritage of the Indianapolis Opera, nearly 5 decades. But even during this pandemic and in challenging times, these past several years, things have been going pretty well for the opera.
It has, from the standpoint of we're learning how to grow into a 21st century arts organization, which couples arts and business as a plan to coincide these things simultaneously. We're coming out of some very 20th century business models. This company has been in some really great successful strides. It's also had some very challenging times in its 46 history, but we are learning, and in fact, we're growing, and that's an amazing accomplishment in these times, but it's a very humbling position for us to be in.
Yeah, it really is an amazing story. And again, in these challenging times, talk about this campaign. You've had improvements to the Opera Center over the past number of years, but you're looking to really step that up with this campaign and add some enhancements as well.
Right. This all started almost 12 to maybe even 15 years ago with the dreams and the visions of John Pickett and James Carraher and an amazing board of directors back in that time period of the early 2000s and late 2015s. And we were able to continue to keep that dream alive, even though some things back in the 2000s did not really quite come together, but it became a new relationship because they then joined forces with philanthropist Bill Osterly and with the community with the help of Indiana Landmarks and others of the Meridian Kessler neighborhood. And what happened was considerably what seemed to be failure back then has been actually the building blocks for us to be able to arrive to this time now where we are on the verge of being able to solidify the funding through our amazing funders of the Lilly Endowment and the Clues Family Foundation, Alan Whitehall's Clues, and now also some major philanthropy contributors in our community that have been alongside us. I'm almost just along for the ride, Gary. It's really an amazing time to be a part of this and be a part of this in this time. It was not necessarily our plan, but some things had to happen back in 2019 for us to continue to be here. And the community wanted us here, the arts community. It's really just a growing dream that is going to really come together.
Yeah, I know you're doing a lot of great things there, David. If you would comment, because there's such a connection between arts and culture, the arts and cultural community, and business, and the ability for Indianapolis or any community really to keep business, to keep talent, attract new talent here. Talk about that connection and why I think a lot of people would argue it's more important now than ever before.
Well, I've spent my career of 25, 30 years trying to tell the story of how important singing and music is in one's life. And there's just no other way to describe it when you don't have it. Literally, the world is going to not be able to watch the live performances of opera or Handel's Messiah or whatever is happening in this time period of these seasons. And now people are hungrier and more vibrant than ever for music and especially singing because it's so personal to everybody. That's where the Indianapolis Opera comes in because it's part of the fabric of the vocal arts of our community. And Indianapolis is a world-class international city. Opera is part of that food chain. And I would say that opera is actually top of the food chain on when it looks at how it has to be involved with business, how it has to be involved with arts, and especially with culture. Opera is the cultural diversity art form. We talk about and sing about and do presentations about stories from literally every single culture around the world. And that is the opportunity that we are absolutely needing to embrace, not only from culture, but also 21st century practices in business and arts simultaneously.
David Starkey is the General Director of the Indianapolis Opera. David, thanks for joining us. A lot of great things going on at the Opera. I know this campaign is going to lead to even more improvements. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful holiday season.
All right, thanks. You too. Well, still ahead, among the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, an alarming increase in the number of people suffering from anxiety and depression. It's taken a big toll on communities and businesses. We'll show you how a New Albany-based business is tackling the problem. Also coming up, every 2.5 hours, someone in Indiana is sent to the hospital for opioid overdose. It's a problem that impacts society and the state economy in a big way. Details on what Indiana University, the state of Indiana, and community organizations are doing to win that war on substance abuse. Well, an unfortunate but all too frequent byproduct of the pandemic. It's an increasing number of Hoosiers feeling depressed, sad, or anxious. A wellness center in New Albany, Southeast Indiana, that focuses on self-care is seeing more demand, a lot more demand for its services during the pandemic, and is now expanding virtually to serve more Hoosiers. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Heart to Heart Wellness Center is GLYNITA Bell's vision of how mental health therapy should be. A cognitive behavioral therapist and clinical social worker, she wanted to create a space where mental wellness is celebrated and normalized. She opened Heart to Heart in New Albany to help shake off the stigma of mental health therapy. While operations have changed at the center during the pandemic, Heart to Heart is now expanding its virtual footprint. GLYNITA Bell, who is the director and founder, joins me now to tell us more about Heart to Heart. GLYNITA, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hi, Kylie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All the way from New Albany. All right. Well, you have been a cognitive behavioral therapist for more than a decade. Explain the stigma that sometimes comes with mental health therapy and how your center really works to reverse that.
Yes, it's really unfortunate that for some reason, people taking time to prioritize their mental health can become stigmatized that they are somehow unbalanced or defective in some way. And the reality is that is so far from the truth. Being preventative in your mental health is just as important as being preventative in your physical health. So I wanted to create a wellness center where we had layers of self-care services such as therapy, yoga, massage, our meditation, as well as our nurse practitioner services. So people could have an enjoyable wellness experience where they were able to prioritize their self-care.
Well, even we can see in the shot behind you, such a beautiful place you have there. Like you mentioned, yoga, massage. So your business model is really built on this like spa-like atmosphere. So then COVID hits and you have to shut down doing everything in person. But explain how that opened the virtual door for you.
Sure. With the pandemic hitting, we initially thought it was going to be a short period of time. And once we realized it wasn't, we had to make sure that we were able to provide services for our clients. And it was very important that we kept our standard of care as well as our holistic approach. So it took a bit of research of finding out which platforms were going to allow us to structure and shape things the best way that we could to provide a good service for our clientele. And we were able to get all of our services offered virtually, which we're really excited about.
So you have therapy online, and the big news now is you're adding yoga back online as well, so people can do their yoga virtually too. So explain this new virtual platform. Also has a special focus on Indianapolis and Louisville. Explain that.
Absolutely. So we're doing our yoga, our nurse practitioner services, as well as meditation classes online. So our whole gamut of services are on our virtual footprint now. And I wanted to start close to home. Being in Southern Indiana, we're close to Indianapolis and have connection there, but we're also close to Kentucky. So the goal is for our company to be able to have a reach that is regional eventually. And I'm really shooting for the stars, and I'd love to see mental wellness be so accessible the way that we're doing it across the nation one day.
And it's a beautiful center you have there. I know massage therapy is still happening there since that's one-on-one. You have seen higher demand during the pandemic, and I think such an important part of that you mentioned to me off camera is that's for all ages. You've seen the need grow. Explain that.
Sure. You are seeing small children, because of the schedule shifts and changes, and they're able to go to school and then school's closing, and that increases anxiety in little bodies. We're seeing it with teenagers, although they're able to understand what's happening around them. It is still very scary. So you're seeing an increase in depression and anxiety with them. And of course, with adults that are now managing not only their full-time jobs, but teaching children from home, as well as whatever financial fallouts, as well as emotional fallouts that are coming from this pandemic. And we're also seeing people that haven't directly had any spikes in something diagnosable. I think people often feel like it has to be some severe issue, but we're seeing people that are realizing through this pandemic that your mental health can be quite fragile, and people wanting to learn preventative self-care skills to prevent that in the future.
All right. Well, GLYNITA, congratulations on the expansion and good luck. And we'll check back in with you maybe when you're able to open your doors again.
Thank you so much, Kylie.
All right. Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, the financial toll that substance abuse takes on Hoosier families is immeasurable. It also has a big impact on the Indiana economy.
Our state and our way of life are at risk. Beset on all sides by an invisible but deadly force, addiction.
4 years ago, Indiana University unveiled its Grand Challenges Initiative, a strategy designed to increase efficiency, drive innovation, and apply new solutions that improve quality of life for Hoosiers in every corner of the state. That initiative focuses on precision health, the environment, and the addiction crisis. IU is partnering with Next Level Recovery Indiana to tackle the full scope of substance abuse across our state. What are the goals, and why is it so critical for the state of Indiana? For some answers, we turn now to Next Level Recovery Executive Director Doug Hunsinger. And Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for having me.
You know, there's been a lot said and written about the opioid crisis, substance abuse and substance use, and those big issues for the state, how critical it is. A big human toll, to be sure, also an economic toll on the state. As we begin our conversation, give us an idea. I mean, how substantial does this challenge continue to be?
Yeah, well, thanks to the work of some IU economists, we know that there is a $4 billion economic toll that this crisis has taken. And we know that COVID-19 has not made this any better. So we're really looking forward. And as the vaccine has begun to be rolled out, we're really looking at how we can get our treatment centers back online, back to full capacity to ensure that we're doing everything we can to first and foremost treat people who are suffering with substance use disorder.
Yeah, Doug, I want to ask you about that, and that's the pandemic's impact on your efforts. What has that impact been?
Yeah, so back in April, we began to see our naloxone administrations with EMS and overdoses within emergency departments increase. And immediately we took action. We have dedicated $1 million that's funding 25,000 doses of naloxone. We've already distributed over 13,000 of those doses. And I would attribute that to why our overdose rate is not climbing at the same rate as that of our neighboring states.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, as we talked off camera before this interview, you talked a little bit about your mission, your focus as it relates to workforce changing just a little bit.
Yeah, you know, before COVID, we had record low unemployment, and our focus was really on, in the employer space, how can we get employers to ensure that their workforce is healthy, not just with the substance use disorder, but also with mental health, and ensuring that there was adequate treatment for those employees and pathways for employers to understand how to look for warning signs and how to create programs in which they could incentivize their employees to take advantage of treatment opportunities.
You've got big challenges. Big challenges, obviously, for you and others working on this challenge. The Grand Challenges Initiative at Indiana University presents you, or certainly has presented you, I think, with a unique tool to combat that. Talk about how this major research institution, with its Grand Challenges Initiative, how that's impacting your efforts.
Yeah, well, we were really happy that Indiana University came on board as a partner early on in our fight. You know, Governor Holcomb has made combating the drug epidemic a top priority, and IU's really brought their expertise in not just research, but in community development and those academics who are able to provide the analysis. You know, we often say around here that our best solutions are implemented and developed at the local level. And we're really here to facilitate that. So IU has done a wonderful job of convening people and providing experts all across the state in communities large and small as they look to help provide solutions and help communities combat the epidemic in their own backyard.
I know IU, and through its Grand Challenges initiative, has made the point this is very much an initiative that is statewide, and that really couples up or coincides with this drug abuse, substance use challenge. It's a statewide initiative. It's not just rural communities, it's urban, rural communities of all sizes.
Absolutely. I'm really have the pleasure to serve on a research team with Dr. Matt Alsma, who they're looking at substance use disorder in the juvenile justice system. It's across 10 counties in the state, all varying degrees of population and resources. And their goal is really to begin to develop interventions and treatment modalities that can hopefully reduce recidivism. This is just one project in the larger, grand challenge that is going to have a really meaningful and lasting impact on our state.
Doug Hunsinger is the Executive Director of Next Level Recovery, and certainly an organization working closely with IU and its Grand Challenges initiative to make a difference in Indiana. Doug, thanks for joining us, and thanks, too, for the work that you do.
Well, thanks for having me, Gary.
All right. Well, unity soon for students and staff at the International School of Indiana. Moving ahead with a new $3.5 million lower school building, all part of a larger vision for the northwest side of Indianapolis campus. International School of Indiana Head of School Elizabeth Head has details in this week's Eye on Education segment. Well, the International School of Indiana is celebrating really the culmination of a 26-year dream after breaking ground on its new $13.5 million Chen Family Lower School. That lower school, which serves or will serve students from age 3 through grade 5, is currently located more than 2 miles away from the Michigan Road location. The new facility will create a single unified campus and is named after Stanley and Allison Chen, who provided the $1.5 million lead gift for the project. International School of Indiana Head of School, Elizabeth Head, joins us now to explain how the expansion is really part of a bigger vision for the campus on the northwest side of Indianapolis. Elizabeth, as always, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Gary.
Yeah, I mentioned this is the school was launched, the International School, 26 years ago. So this has really been a dream for the school from day one, but really for the past 12 years, a real focus on this lower school project. Talk about the vision, what this brings, what this means to the school.
You know, the International School of Indiana was founded 26 years ago. And of course, from day one, the dream was to be on a unified campus. And slowly but surely, the campus has been built up, and the final piece needed to fully unify on one campus at Michigan Road is this lower school building from age 3 through grade 5. There are so many benefits, not just to the school itself, but to our community at large here in Indiana and even the Midwest. I mean, if we look specifically at the school, of course, there are benefits to having high quality facilities with our world-class education, for the increased collaboration of students, of staff, of families, the whole community on one campus. But the much bigger picture is the benefit to the region, to the Midwest. ISI is the only school in the entire Midwest that offers the full language immersion, the full international baccalaureate curriculum, and by doing so, attracts talent for the workforce of Indiana from all around the world. At such a crucial time of global mobility and the challenges the world is facing right now in global mobility, the International School is precisely located here in Indiana as a real asset to the state to not only attract talent, but also to attract foreign investment, to create a global community with a hub here in Indiana that not only attracts talent, but then develops international and global mindedness in its students to then build the workforce here in Indiana with the students that graduate from the international school. So having this school finally consolidated on one unified campus benefits everyone in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I think you bring up a good point, is that business connection between the school and the business community and state of Indiana. Business leaders really were part of founding the school a number of years ago. Talk about the importance and how the school really does play an important role in what is now an ever more so a global economy, and Indiana playing a part of that.
You know, this is key. 26 years ago, a group of corporate, civic, and business partners said, how do we help Indiana stand out on a national level? How do we help Indiana not only compete among the other states in the United States, but how do we help Indiana attract foreign investment above and beyond what other states are doing and attract talent? With the workforce gap that we know exists, how can Indiana compete? And 26 years ago, a group of visionaries saw Indiana as a hub of global mindedness. In fact, in the United States, there are fewer than 10 states that have an international school. So Indiana should be very proud because Indiana can talk to the rest of the world in ways that most states can't in terms of attracting their workforce. Because not only do you attract the employee, you attract the full company because you can take care of their entire family, provide a community for that entire family where that family feels comfortable, can set down roots, and actually build into the workforce, into the future of Indiana. And that's all by attracting one employee at a time. That was the vision 26 years ago. That's why the school has a full language immersion program in French, Mandarin, and Spanish. That's why it recruits teachers from all around the world to do native speaking teaching. That's why it has an international curriculum considered the gold standard curriculum, because all that does is attract families, the best families from around the world, to a state like Indiana.
Very quickly, we only have about 20 seconds left, Elizabeth, but Stan and Allison Chen, the lead gift on this, but I think representative of the business and community leaders coming together to financially support this expansion.
What a special group of families. You know, we have founding families from the past 26 years that have given to this campaign. Sydney Terrell, Doug Brown, David Cosine, so many more, but also now this new generation, Stanley and Allison Chen giving $1.5 million, the Denary family giving $1 million, and then so many other community partners and ISI families committed to building the legacy into the future. So we're just so excited about this community that we've been building.
Elizabeth Head, the head of school at the International School of Indiana. Major news there with an expansion on the campus that will have impact, I know, for a number of years. Elizabeth, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the Purdue University Board of Trustees has approved a freeze on room and board rates for the university's West Lafayette and Fort Wayne campuses for the 2021-22 academic year. That move was approved this week. With the room and board ruling, Purdue says room and board rates will essentially, for the upcoming school year, be lower than they were in 2012-2013. The decision comes in addition to the February announcement that tuition will continue to be frozen through next school year. Purdue University Northwest, though, will see a 2.5% increase in room and board for 2021-22. Additionally, the board has named Matthew Lionel as director of the Burton D. Morgan Center for Entrepreneurship. He is a clinical professor in Purdue's Krannert School of Management and has served as a full-time member of Purdue's staff since 2009. He was also previously a partner and senior VP in the entrepreneurial consulting practice at Ernst & Young. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Coming up next week, the $300 million BottleWorks district in downtown Indianapolis. It is much anticipated, and we'll give you a first look inside the BottleWorks Hotel. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures. with support from WFYI Productions.